Hey everyone. Yeah, you knew it was coming down the pipeline eventually, right? I mean, it's already been happening at a fairly substantial and rapid pace, but because it's been leveling off or slowing down in recent years, because most of the most ambitious business owners or corporations have pretty much left Canada for the most part, right? Canada's been put on the back burner for the most part, and we kind of live off of the extension of the credit card limits, right? Of the prolonged socialist aspect of many parts of this country and many parts of the province of Ontario, especially in the southwestern aspect of it. You got a lot in southwestern Ontario. As much as there are some capitalists, man, you got a lot of socialists. Well, that's kind of the thing that always happens, right? Find any major center where you have entrepreneurs and people with business sense and that zestful spirit to create, right? As soon as you find any place around the world, around the globe, where there's that kind of ambition and people that want to create capital and and resources and wealth, right? Well, right? Expect the parasites are gonna fucking follow you, right? Just like if you look in the ocean, right? All the parasites look to the biggest source where they can feed at, right? That's the realm of the parasite, right? So when you look out there and you're like, well, gee, why is it always these big urban centers that have all these socialists? Well, that seems to be the place with the biggest growth model, so maybe that seems to be the right thing to do. Well, in a way, you're right on one half of that equation is, yes, being an entrepreneur and having that capitalist mentality of, creating prosperity, right? Things that benefit yourself and everyone else at the same time, right? That win-win situation, which is free market capitalism. But the parasites have known this, and I mean for generations and generations, for centuries now. It's like they always gravitate towards the most growth, the most economic growth, the most entrepreneurial spirits, those that produce much. And what they do is they rely on you with, just think about the psychology of it. Once you get to a certain point, you know yourself. Even a rich person realizes, I can't spend all this shit today, so there's a little bit of a guilt, or there's a little bit of, well, maybe I should give back. Well, the parasites, ooh, let's take advantage of that. Especially the rich people. The parasites love fucking with rich people because they'll use your prosperity against you. They want to make you feel guilty for creating and being a productive person in society. That's really what it comes down to. That's what these parasites have perfected. And they've done it to the point now where, man, they're, like I say, they're forcing away all the ones that want to stay solvent and resilient and try to raise and elevate us. Well, it's not going to happen in this atmosphere. And Procter Gamble has come to realize this. And Procter Gamble's been around in Canada for a long time. This is a company that goes back a long fucking time. Just look at the history of Procter Gamble. But here we are today, CBC News, Ottawa. Procter Gamble to close Brockville, Ontario plant. Nearly 500 employees to be laid off as company moves production to West Virginia. And of course they're going to. I mean, just look at how fucking difficult the Ontario government, these liberals, these progressives, these collectivists, these parasites, right? The parasitic class, yeah, they're forcing all the productive people they don't want to deal with it anymore. And I can't say I blame them. I can't fucking say I blame them. And I don't think it's a good idea from them to send jobs south of the border. Like I said, if they want to remain viable, well, it's either you function in this fucking shithole socialist, quasi-socialist country of Canada, or now that Trump's trying to start to create a little bit of free market aspects of the economy in the U.S., now they're like, well, I'm going there, right? So like I said, Canada continues because of the fucking type of central planning fucktards that the Canadians seem to keep wanting to elect, although I don't think Canadians want to. It's just they're picking the lesser of evils for the most part, constantly. But, with Maxime Bernier, hopefully he'll win the leadership candidate for the Conservative Party. And then Canadians will truly have someone that they can genuinely support. All Canadians will. If that actually happens, Canadians are all about social freedoms, and those are all about economic freedoms. So whether you're from the right side or the left side or everywhere in between the political spectrum, you will now actually have not that choice where you got to pick one of the lesser evils. With Maxime Bernier, if he becomes leader of the Conservative Party, Liberals can get behind him, Conservatives can get behind him, and Libertarians can get behind him. So like I say, And that's, to me, that's the most important aspect of what's going on here with this leadership race as far as the Conservatives is to try to send the message to the business community in Canada that no, we're not going to fucking allow all these central planning fucking parasitical classes to keep fucking with you guys. We're going to give you a chance to compete in the markets on the world stage, not just in Canada, on the world stage. And you know what? We're going to give you the benefit of the doubt and allow you to do it, but we're not going to prop you up. You're going to have to learn to do it on your own. And I guarantee you, you'll see that Canadians, yeah, you give them the chance to do that, and they'll be able to accomplish those things. But at this stage, well, it's a little too late now for Procter Gamble. I guess they can't hold up till 2019. So, you know, if Bernier was in power now, we wouldn't see this kind of headline. But it's not Bernier. It's fucking Trudeau and his progressive feminazi liberals, right? And they're not liberals, let me tell you. Progressives, but liberals, no. Because a liberal, in the classical sense, is about social freedoms and economic freedoms, very closely aligned to libertarians. But the liberals of today, no. Social freedoms for sure. Economic freedoms, they won't give you any of that. The city of Brockville, Ontario, is losing its largest industrial employer, a significant part of its economy, and nearly 500 well-paid manufacturing positions, said Mayor David Henderson, as Procter & Gamble announced today the closure of the plant. What a shame. Feel bad for the people of Hamilton, Brockville, that'll have to deal with this. You know, it's a terrible thing, and my heart goes out to those people. But hey, listen, stop competing in that race to the bottom, right? Because, well, you're seeing now it's the negative consequences of doing that, right? Employees received the news at a meeting Wednesday morning at a plant which manufactures Swiffer dusters, fabric softeners, and Tide to Go detergent pens. The plant will close permanently in late 2020 or early 2021 and move production to a West Virginia mega plant. It just floored me. I wasn't expecting that at all, said Rowdy Vericelli, who has been working at the Brockville plant since 2004. When night shifts were canceled and employees were told to gather early Wednesday morning, he expected changes and perhaps downsized, but not losing the plant altogether. I think it was just utter shock when it was completely announced that that'd be it, he said. So like I say, I'll post a link to this article in the description of this video below. Enough's been said already, right? I mean, basically the plant's going to be completely closing down. So not just these people that are, but the entire plant and all that infrastructure will now be just another, like, look at the video that I posted prior to about what happened in Detroit, right? One of the most prosperous manufacturing sectors of the U.S. economy, and not that long ago. And just look at some video footage and evidence of what's happened to that. Under the guise of democratic leadership, just like in Canada, what we call progressives, under that same kind of leadership, the devastation and destruction that happens and the long-term consequences of all this central planning, right? And progressivism and collectivism, this forced subjugation model, and this wealth redistribution model, like I say, yeah, it's that race to the bottom. And now you're seeing that, well, you're just going to have a bunch of bottom feeders left. That's what you're going to end up with as a consequence of all this central planning. And Ontario and Quebec, well, those are the two leading provinces in Canada that's racing on a fast pace down to the bottom. Try to stay above that. Try to get out and escape that. So, we got to push back tremendously in this modern era, in this time. And we don't have a whole lot of time to just sit back on the sidelines and wonder, well, what? We got to really step up the pace. We got to step up the pressure against these central planning cohorts and these collective fucking mentality type of central planning types. We got to push back against them. We got to start removing them from the positions and the levers of power and putting people in there, even though, like I say, I'm not a big fan of having people have the ability to central plan, but you at least got to put the people in there that are willing to have that live, let live, and let the market, dictate, which the market isn't a dictator. The market is just everyone having the ability to hold each other to account socially and economically, so that each other knows that you have no capacity, you have no ability to fuck with me through the power of legislation, through the power of central planning. Take that off the table, and then people will learn to adapt and deal with each other on a much better basis, socially and economically, and our prosperity will increase as a result. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.